He was ready to pull the trigger, not at the enemy, but at himself. Months in the desert had taken everything, until a single letter changed his life forever. The desert never forgets. It burns your skin, steals your sleep, and whispers to you when you're alone. By my 6th month in Afghanistan, I'd stopped counting the missions. Every day bled into the next. Heat, dust, gunfire, silence, then repeat. My uniform always smelled like gunpowder and sweat. My hands like metal and regret. At first, I tried to keep track. Names of hills, dates of firefights, the faces of men who went home in flag-draped boxes. But after a while, you stop writing things down because paper can't handle that kind of weight. I was 27, Staff Sergeant Nathan Carter, 2nd Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment. At least, that's what my tag said. Inside, I was just empty. You think war is loud. It isn't. It's quiet. The kind that hums in your skull when the shooting stops. The kind that follows you even in sleep. At night, I'd lie on a cot barely wider than my shoulders, staring at the canvas ceiling. I could hear the snoring of the guys beside me, the whirring of the generator, and sometimes, in the distance, the crack of a single rifle. Somewhere out there, someone else's story ending. The letters from home slowed to a trickle. First weekly, then monthly, then nothing. Even the care packages stopped. I remember the last one I got. Stale cookies and a photo of my old high school friends at a barbecue. Red Solo cups raised in the air like trophies. I stared at it for a long time. They looked happy, alive, clean. I didn't even recognize myself in that world anymore. I started to hate them for being untouched, for being safe. And then I started to hate myself for not dying alongside the ones who did everything right. We were deep in the mountains outside Kunar province, a week-long recon mission that turned into 3. We moved like ghosts, silent and exhausted. Every night I told myself, just one more day, one more ridge. The sun was merciless. The nights were worse. Every sound could be the one that ended you. A click underfoot, a whisper in the brush. I remember thinking, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to just stop walking. I'd already lost count of the funerals. Henderson Ruiz Daniels. The letters from command called them heroes. But out there, heroes were just names you whispered before you zipped up a bag. One night, after another mission that went wrong in all the familiar ways, I sat on my cot and cleaned my rifle. Not because it needed it, because I didn't know what else to do. It gleamed under the flickering light. I'd never noticed how beautiful it was. The cold precision, the weight, the silence when it wasn't killing. My hand moved almost on its own. Barrel tilted upward, the muzzle kissed my chin, and then a shout tore through the stillness. "Mail call!" The words bounced around the barracks like a cruel joke. Nobody cared anymore. Most of us didn't get mail. I almost didn't move, but something, maybe curiosity, maybe habit, pulled me up. I stepped outside into the thin desert air. The stars were so bright they looked painted. And there it was. One letter. No return address. Just a name written in crayon. Sam. St. Louis. I tore it open with hands still shaking from what almost happened. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. The handwriting was crooked, uneven, the kind of handwriting you only get before the world teaches you to write neatly. 3 words. Thank you for your service. That was it. No rank, no salutation, no signature. I stared at it for a long time. Then I started to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. And then, somewhere between the laughter and the silence, I started to cry. I hadn't cried since my first deployment. I didn't even know I still could. The tears fell on the paper, smudging the crayon. I pressed it to my chest and stayed like that until morning. That letter didn't come from a soldier or a politician. It came from a kid who didn't even know my name. But it reached me when no one else could. When we rotated home 6 months later, I carried Sam's letter in my cargo pocket. Through ambushes, through rain, through loss. It never left my side. Sometimes, when I felt the edge of despair creeping back in, I'd pull it out, read it again, and whisper the words like a prayer. Back home, people didn't know what to say. They'd say, "You made it back," or "You must be glad to be home." But I wasn't home. Not really. My body was. My head was still halfway across the world. Crowds made me flinch. Fireworks made me hit the ground. I'd wake up sweating, reaching for a rifle that wasn't there. The VA waiting rooms were full of ghosts like me, breathing, blinking, but not really living. Then, one day, while going through my old duffel, I found that letter again. The edges were frayed, the crayon was faded, but it was still there. That simple piece of paper had saved my life once. Maybe it could save me again. I decided to find Sam. No last name, just Sam from St. Louis. It was insane, but obsession can look a lot like purpose when you need it to. I started writing letters to schools, veterans organizations, community centers. I even reached out to a few local news stations. Months passed. Nothing. Then, one afternoon, I got a reply. A handwritten note from a woman named Eleanor Price. She was a teacher at Jefferson Elementary in St. Louis. She said that 10 years ago, her third-grade class had participated in a Letters to Soldiers project. They'd written dozens of thank you notes and sent them overseas. She enclosed a copy of the class list. There was only one Sam Samuel Price, age 8, her son. A month later, I stood in front of a small blue house on the outskirts of St. Louis. My palms were sweating worse than any firefight. When the door opened, a man in his 20s stood there. Tall, kind eyes, wearing a shirt that said Jefferson Elementary Volunteer. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Are you Sam?" He nodded, cautious. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my wallet. "You wrote this," I said. He blinked, confused. "I wrote a lot of things. Not like this." I handed it to him. His eyes widened as he unfolded it, the faint smell of dust still clinging to it, the faint smudge where my tears had once been. He laughed softly. "I was 8 years old. I remember we made those in class. You mean you actually got it?" "I did," I said quietly, "and it saved my life." He didn't know what to say. Neither did I. We just stood there, two strangers, bound by a crayon letter written a lifetime ago. Then his mother came to the door, gray-haired now, same warmth in her eyes. She remembered the project. She cried when I told her the story. That night, they invited me to dinner. I sat at their table, surrounded by the kind of normal laughter I hadn't heard in years. For the first time, I felt something close to peace. I still carry that letter. It sits framed above my desk now. Whenever I start to lose faith, in the system, in people, in myself, I read those 3 words again. Thank you for your service. It's simple, but sometimes the smallest voices carry the loudest truths. I joined a veterans support group, started volunteering at schools. I even spoke to a group of 3rd graders once about Sam's letter, about how kindness doesn't need a return address. Every time I tell the story, someone in the room starts to cry. And every time, I feel the same lump in my throat. Because Sam's letter didn't just save me. It reminded me what I was fighting for in the first place. Some heroes don't wear capes. They wear memories that never fade. If you felt this story, don't scroll away. Subscribe, follow, and share, so no veteran ever feels forgotten again.